I like to think that I've got a decent knowledge of Australian TV. So when I get told about something I've not heard of before and can find hardly any information about, I get intrigued. And today's video is a look at one such show that has been largely forgotten since the mid-1980s. And that's a shame, because this show has some surprise actor appearances and parallels with something else I've talked about on the channel before. So let me tell you about it. This is my take on the ABC's Hide Till Daytime. And this time I've got the help of a very special guest.
Rundle starts to come alive before the morning sun has reached the sky.
Hide Till Daytime was an adaptation of a 1977 novel by an author named Joan Gibson, and was filmed inside the David Jones store in Rundle, South Australia during the early 1980s. It took the form of a two-part special under the For the Juniors banner of ABC Kids educational programming, and both For the Juniors and Hide Till Daytime didn't just aim to be educational in isolation. They were actually developed in conjunction with the schools themselves, as Hide Till Daytime's producer and director Margot remembers.
So at the time when I was there, we were a whole education section. We had an education liaison officer who we worked with, so we actually worked with the schools to their curriculum to make programs.
Both the book and adaptation follow two kids named Agatha and George who are locked inside David Jones' department store overnight. And besides the change from Sydney's David Jones store in the book to the Rundle store in the adaptation, the story beats are pretty similar across both versions. You've got George making a mess of himself, and he and Agatha go to clean him up and get left behind in the store by their parents, as both the mum and dad each think that the other is looking after the kids. Agatha and George realise that nobody else is in there either, and they decide to explore. They even go into the basement of David Jones and get rattled by all the mannequins and things that have been left behind on display. And it's all very gloomy and unsettling.
I can remember doing that, and that was great fun, lighting, creating that scene, because obviously you put it together so that the camera could get the shots and move things around. And the intention, was to try and make the audience feel unsettled, to identify with the children feeling unsettled.
As night falls, the two kids go back to the furniture department and fall asleep in one of the beds, ending the first half of the show. When you watch it, it's clear that both of these children are scared by what's happened to them, especially George, and you can understand why. David Jones at night is a very dark environment, and it also has some liminal space vibes. It's not quite as strong as something like The Backrooms, but you can feel something there. As much anxiety as the kids had or were meant to have though, they weren't the only ones to feel uneasy inside David Jones.
We're given the key to override the lifts, so we could stop the lift at whatever floor we wanted. And so I took that and went in it and used the key. And every time I stopped the lift, it stopped at a brick wall. I couldn't get it to stop at an opening. And I'm slightly claustrophobic. I can really remember this to this day, how eventually I got it to open, and there was about a third open, and I scrambled out the top and said, someone else has got to do this. I can't do it anymore. I certainly was into the fear of the kids, but this was a fear of the lift being stuck in for ages.
As the second part kicks off, the kids realise that they're not alone, and there's a robber inside the store as well. And Agatha even has a very short conversation with Triple O on the phone to ask them for some help. But luckily, it's not a robber running around in the store after them. It's all been a misunderstanding. And the man chasing them around David Jones is actually the night watchman. And he's played by Edward Caddick, who was also in Plain Beatty Bow, and an episode of Doctor Who. But it's worth pointing out perhaps that his episode is one of Doctor Who's infamous lost episodes. Soon after, a firefighter and police officer show up to check on things, as they were the ones that had spoken to Agatha on the phone earlier. And the police officer is played by none other than John Wood, a decade or so before he would take on his most famous role as another police officer on Blue Heelers. Eventually, the kids are reunited with their parents, and this is a good time to mention that their dad is played by John Noble, who you probably know from a lot of different things, but is best known perhaps for being Denethor in Lord of the Rings. For John Wood and John Noble, Hard Till Daytime was amongst their earliest roles.
I would have picked them up from a talent agency. Would have gone to a talent agency, right, okay, I'm looking for a policeman and whatever, and they would show me the books and then you audition them. So they were, at the start of their careers too. All of these programs were training grounds for, the skills as a crew and the skills in front of the camera.
Perhaps a bit weirdly, all the actors that I've pointed out don't actually have Hard Till Daytime documented in any of their credits online, as far as I can tell.
They weren't, high-profile programs because they were at that stage still education programs for schools, not for the general public, so to speak. So that's why I think, they haven't sort of surfaced.
I think that's a shame. It only reinforces how Hard Till Daytime has inadvertently perhaps been tucked away in the ABC's archives for decades without any repeats or any chance at a real lasting impact. As you might have guessed, Hard Till Daytime reminds me a lot of Jandy and the 9 O'Clock Tiger, and there's some clear parallels between the two. Both are based off children's books, and both were filmed in Adelaide as part of the For the Juniors lineup, and both were produced in the mid-80s. Both shows also deal with childhood fears and children's imaginations running wild as a result. In Jandy Malone and the 9 O'Clock Tiger, you have kids that are scared of a tiger that comes out at 9 o'clock at night, which turns out to be their cat. On the other side, you have Hard Till Daytime, where two kids locked in a department store overnight are creeped out by a robber who turns out to be a night watchman.
So it must have been something in the curriculum then was about kids' fears that we were tapping into. We would be told by the education department what they wanted programs on, and then we would come back and say, well, we'd like to do it as a book adaptation using these, and we'd select the books ourselves, because obviously we'd select books that didn't have huge fight scenes in them and lots of hundreds of actors because they'd be too expensive.
Perhaps the biggest similarity of all is that both shows have now fallen into complete obscurity. A search turns up very little information, especially for Hard Till Daytime, and the only reason that I've heard about it was because of a comment left on my channel, so thank you to Electric Synapse for that. But while the first half of Jandy Malone and the 9 O'Clock Tiger is still missing, we do thankfully now have the full version of Hard Till Daytime online as of this upload, though it's got some time codes and a watermark on screen. It's now on the Internet Archive, but if you try and upload the full episode to YouTube, you'll get flagged, but not an actual copyright strike, for some music that's used. And this could be one of the reasons why the ABC have never screened it again after its original run, or why it's been never officially re-released. When you also factor in things like book rights and the actors perhaps signing on for the understanding that it was a educational show only, given a few TV runs, and a whole lot of other factors, it can be tricky to get everything updated and signed off to make it officially available today on streaming or whatever else wasn't around way back when shows like Hard Till Daytime were being made.
It'll actually be hard to track them all. It's more that as well. You need to have someone sitting down really tracking back a long way to try and get clearances. Because if one of those actors would have signed a contract for particular use, and this would be different use. So yes, I can imagine it could cost that.
It is a hard balancing act, but I'm glad it at least still exists in some form. And if you saw Hard Till Daytime back in the day as a kid in the 80s, then I'd love to hear any memories you might have of watching it. Or if you're a teacher that showed it in class, then let me know in the comments of this upload. And if you're someone that's come into Hard Till Daytime the first time thanks to this video, then I urge you to check out any uploads of it that might be around and let me know what you think. And looking back at Hard Till Daytime has made me wonder just how many other shows are out there that I'm not aware of, that not a lot of other people are aware of either, that could be lost. And I hope to keep looking at them and discussing them on this channel and perhaps recovering them. Who knows what else might be out there?
Oliver Button's A Sissy, I can't find that anywhere. And yet that won a drama commendation at what was then the Penguins. So it was sort of, it was considered to be of a high level. But again, just disappeared. Who knows where it is?